You're welcome back. My guest, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, is Director Programs and Policy Engagement at Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Roxanne Nelson Eche, Dafiamapo MP, South Dai, Member, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Public Accounts Standing Orders Committee of Parliament. Seth Bokwe is Associate Editor at the Fourth Estate. And Kofi Bentel, lawyer and Senior Vice President, Timani Africa, join us. So, good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for your time. Straight to you, Seth Bokwe. Give us the highlights of what you have eventually, as it were, summarized as what needs attention for solution.
Thank you, Samson. We think that, first, let me go over the findings. So what we found is that at least 26 people who are either politicians, relatives of politicians, diplomats, or connected to our social elites had this scholarship. And I must emphasize that that is not all, because when we started serializing the full list, 6 people have been identified as the categories I mentioned earlier. And then we also found that at least 17 people received multiple scholarships, either in the same year or in consecutive years. For instance, you have a beneficiary, Matthias Abednego Bonnier, who received 807,192 cedis. That is if you convert his 81,948.46 Canadian dollars into cedis today. Now, that fee can actually cater for, when we did the value for money analysis, that fee can actually pay for 45 Master of Science in Project Management students at UPSA and 39 at KNUST. And you also found that majority of these courses that we spend money on outside are in Ghanaian universities. We also found that at least 104 of the beneficiaries are yet to return to Ghana, although they've signed bonds to do so. At least 3 of these beneficiaries have been living abroad in the last 5 years. And it will be interesting to find out how they even signed their bonds before they were given the scholarship. Now, contrary to claims that the Scholarship Secretariat provided more than 2,000, the names of more than 2,000 people to us as beneficiaries in 2019 and 2020, the number is actually 1,531. And let me give you a breakdown of it. 966 of these beneficiaries received foreign scholarships. 561 of them were for study abroad, that is the 1-year language program for French, Chinese, Spanish, and Swahili. And they had no figure attached to their names, nothing in terms of financial value attached to their names. So we could not have added them to our analysis. Somebody, for instance, was only captured as a black. I don't know how we'll be able to track this person's background. Now, we also think that the Scholarship Secretariat, as we speak now, does not have any guideline for the selection of applicants, apart from the criteria that you should be a Ghanaian and have a university admission. I think that is very basic. And then, contrary to the claim that the scholarship system, you heard the Vice President, for instance, mentioning it. Contrary to the claim that the award has been decentralized to the extent that if you go to the district level, you will get scholarship. That is for local universities. there's no evidence that those who went abroad were actually awarded at the district level. In fact, the Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat told us that because of the cost involved, they do not award the foreign scholarship at the local level. So you have to apply in Accra. Now, how do you apply in Accra if there's no call for application? There is no publication of even a list of beneficiaries to make the process transparent. And then also, we found it interesting that when we interviewed Dr. Clement Apak, for instance, he said they are not able to hold the scholarship secretariat accountable because it is under the office of the president. I mean, when you hear the kind of allegations that come against the scholarship secretariat, including people saying they paid so much to get a scholarship, and then you have a situation where they are virtually shielded, then it becomes problematic.
There's a question that's been asked you. I think it's a lame one, though. You have received documents covering 1,531 beneficiaries of the scholarship, out of which 966 are foreign scholarships. And you have highlighted less than 30 who you say are the outliers. Why should that be sinful?
I think it is sinful because if you look at the argument had been that, oh, there's no law that regulates the scholarship secretariat. But if you marry the mandates of the scholarship secretariat from the Nkrumah days and then its own mission, which is available on its website, which reads, our mission is to utilize government funds, get fund, and other donor support for the provision of scholarship to brilliant bandit students and qualified workers at a minimum access cost for human resource development for the purpose of national growth and development, then it becomes problematic. It becomes problematic because these scholarships are going to Ghana's highest paid, Ghana's highest resource people. I mean, who are virtually competing against very poor people from Bunkrugu Yoyo, for instance. Or we're also talking about people who would not make it because they are not in a position to influence whatever decision the scholarship secretariat takes. If you have people like, for instance, Dr. Dennis Addo, the owner of Claron Hospital at East Legon, who had $50,031. In the same year, another person qualified for that scholarship and had the same Harvard, the same program, and had a little over $25,000. Then you wonder what went into the decision making.
They tell you that you cannot be making the determination about who is needy in the way you are making it. How do you respond to that? The fact that someone is he the MD of the hospital or owner of the hospital, and that
he's the founder and owner, the CEO.
Yes, give us his details again.
So Dr. Dennis Addo, founder and CEO of the Claron Hospital at Airport Residential Area, a former board member of the National Health Insurance Authority, a member of the MPP, who in fact contested the Echimawa South MPP primaries and lost recently.
Yes, he may have money to pay for primaries, but if he's going for education and it will be of benefit to the country, they should pay for him. What's your problem?
I don't think that is a prudent use of our resources, particularly when that particular course is also available at GIMPA. And as we speak, thousands of students are stranded abroad.
He's operating a health facility. He's saving lives at East Legon, at least, is he not?
Airport Residential Area, in fact, where some of the country's deepest pockets live. I don't think it is a justification for providing a scholarship to such a person. And also, if you marry the idea, which I mentioned to you earlier, that somebody had the same scholarship in the same year, probably his classmates as we speak, would be given 25,000. What went into that decision making? And also, if you take Fauzi Ramadan, the relative of the second lady, who will pay 17,355.
You have been reminded by the Scholarship Secretariat that when you mention that that person is connected to the First Lady, you should also mention that that person is more closely related also to the MP for, is it Adenta? Or is it?
Fair point. It doesn't.
Who is supposed to be an NDC MP?
Fair point. I mean, we are not doing political equalization. That's not the focus of our story. Neither are we targeting anybody. But a pattern emerged in the research, which we pointed out. But our concern is that in the case of this,
how could that escape you? That you are able to link this person to the First Lady, who doesn't bear the name Ramadan, and you are unable to link the person to the NDC MP who bears the name Ramadan. They say that's a problem with your work.
It was easy because we found that he was a personal assistant to him.
To her or him.
And also, if we want to argue about that, I think it would be far easier for somebody who is the second lead PA to get a scholarship because of the level of influence in that office compared to an MP in the opposition party. I think that should be clear. And also, I think that we should drive home the point that the 17,355 pounds we paid for this gentleman went to waste. He didn't go to the school. He didn't attend because he said he had an accident and did not even defer the course. That is problematic. If you also have Charles Asma, who just flew by your screen, who lives in the UK, was a tax consultant and a lecturer in the university at the time he got a scholarship. He was the MPP. He currently is now actually the MPP treasurer in the UK. I mean, how do you justify that politics did not play a role in this?
You highlighted the diplomats who also received scholarships. The diplomats are serving the country, are they not? Does it matter that, they are diplomats and you think they should be able to earn enough to pay their fees on their own? And this was a colleague of mine who was also the, go back again, the, what's the name, the national, one of the institutions. Okay, so go on. So what's the point? They are diplomats. You highlight Freddie Blair's daughter, and you say the mother is a diplomat, the father is chairman of GMPC, the father has bought vehicles for all constituencies, but they are sponsoring her so she'll bring benefit to the country by studying law. And I think she's currently practicing in her private firm in Accra.
So again, Samson, we are talking about Lucy Blair, who is a managing partner of the law firm of the father, and who at the time is a qualified lawyer in Ghana. Then we are spending money to help her qualify to practice in England and Wales. And then the interesting thing, she comes back and was part of the legal team that defended Aisha Wang. Isn't that fascinating? Why do we have to pay for a lawyer, I mean, not even a state attorney, to go and qualify in England and Wales? To what benefits? How does that benefit us? I don't really get it.
Did the Freddie Blair firm defend Aisha Wang, or you wanted to refer to Efadate, who also did that job? Because that's the Efadate's son, who also you have highlighted, right?
No, I'm referring to Freddie Blair's. The firm took over at a point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you ask of the diplomats, the 2 diplomats we cited are the top peg, the highest level of our diplomacy. For instance, Mr. Alifo at a point acted as Ghana's High Commissioner to Canada after the exit of Ni Ayikwe Otu in 2021. You also have Florence Akuno, who got a little, I think close to about $5,000. These are not funds that she cannot have. 4,000 pounds actually. These are not monies that we will say that our topmost diplomats cannot afford and go to school. Particularly when we have a situation where we reject an applicant who needed just 4,000 cedis for UCC and couldn't get it for his masters.
Okay.
But we can afford.
Okay. Thank you for those details, Seth Bokwe. Now, there is the one that you flagged and said that the person never really went to the school, but the evidence supplied to you by the Secretariat itself shows that money in Ghana cedis in excess of, is it how much? Almost 300,000 or so had been paid to the university. What are they telling you about his situation? Are they going to recover the money or what? Because the person never went to the university.
That has not been addressed. That issue has not been addressed by the Secretariat.
Okay.
And we are hoping that going forward they will be able to speak to that matter.
All right.
And I think that at this point it will also be very important for the audit service to step in and look into the books of the Scholarship Secretariat, because there are things that I think we probably could not find because, we do not have.
So what you were giving,
audit service may have.
What you were giving was for 2019-2020, correct?
Exactly.
And you were giving a list of 1,500.
531.
Great. Now, you had been pursuing this since March of 2021.
Yes.
So, how come we are now hearing about it?
You are not hearing about it because we were given the documents in a hard copy. We asked for a PDF format, but we were giving it in a hard copy. And in fact, it took a whole year, about back and forth to get the document. At the point, when we first asked for it, they said that they needed the opinion of the AG on it because it contains private and confidential data. And then we had to go to the
private and confidential data.
Yes.
The Vice President has said from 2020 or so that everything was going to be transparent on the website.
Well, apparently it wasn't so because...
Okay, so the AG wrote and said what? They should give the information to you or you were denied?
No, after that, they did not even mind us. So we had to we wrote an internal appeal, they didn't mind us. So we eventually ended up at the Right to Information Commission. And
the commission upheld that they had to give you the information?
Exactly. But that they should redact the private data, including phone numbers, student IDs, and things like that.
And you feel it's a punishment that they decided to give it to you in the manner they did?
It was a real punishment because my colleague, who I worked with on this story, Thelma Dede America, applauded to her, had to type this out, every single name. And then we had to cross-check again using the book to ensure that we didn't make any mistakes.
All right. In the era of digitalization and digitization, I'm sure the sector minister and the vice president will not be excited about that. Let me begin with Kofi Bentil. Kofi, I don't get any of this. I've heard the responses that have come in and everything else, that journalists also get it, so on and so forth. So there's actually no problem. You won't share the view that picking only about 3 dozens of what you call outliers out of in excess of 1,500 names to highlight in the way that we are highlighting is not fair?
Samson, it is absolutely fair. Our job as civil society people, commentators, journalists, investigators, is not to necessarily go and look for what is regular and well done. Somehow, it falls to some of us to look for what is going wrong so it can be fixed. So the short answer is that Fourth Estate has done what a journalist must do. This is the highest form of journalism, to look for what is wrong in society, give light to it, and then hopefully work towards a resolution of it. So the short answer is that nobody should make that argument. If even there were 2 cases of abuse, this is public funds in a poor country. Those 2 cases are worthy of being highlighted, and we should go down the rabbit hole to find out how and why it happened so we can stop it. So there's a short answer, and yes, it is a very good exercise. We should also give plaudits to Fourth Estate. And you just mentioned the issue of the frustration of giving them hard copies. See, public institutions should be reprimanded for such bad behavior. You actually spend state resources to go and find the paper, buy the toner, get a staff person to print those hundreds of pages just to punish somebody. The guy who did that should be fired. These are evil people, people who do things just to make things difficult for everybody else. Okay, and it's all wrong. They make an RTI, which you and I fight for. You are dealing with public office, public funds, and you don't want to be transparent. And when the commission, the guy has had to go through the process, you disregard the law, and you are telling him that, oh, there's private information. But those people who had the private information, they were happy to take public funds and not just use it, but abuse it. And then you want to defend that. And when you lose and the commission says give it to them, you use state resources to frustrate them. My brother, some of these people should not be anywhere near public office. And those who are in charge should make sure these people don't retain their offices. They are the problem. Let me leave it here for now.
Now, I mean, Kingsley Ajiman is certainly not an evil person. He's contesting.
I'm talking about the principle.
He's contesting. Kofi Bento. He's contesting to replace Atachia in the Buakwa South.
As the MP, I think he's a nice person.
As the MP, he's a PhD anyway. As the MP. And guess what he did? Get what he did. He subsidized. He subsidized the cost of a bag of maize from 800 cedis to 300 cedis for the entire constituency. That's not an evil person.
People who do this should not hold public office. And Mr. Ajima should apologize for it. Otherwise, he's not fit for the office that he's.
He says your problem is that you don't have a law regulating the secretariat, so you can now get up and want to expose facto, determining to him who a needy person is to benefit from the scholarship. That's why he's telling you that you haven't given him any law.
Should I give you my comment on that?
Yeah.
Good. Here's the comment on that. When public offices are set up, they are set up somehow with the thinking that people of sufficient competence and reasonable judgment will occupy those offices. And in the process, therefore, they would exercise their powers reasonably. If you read the article 296 in our constitution and other places, anybody who is given powers must publish. They must publish the principles and all the rules and whatever it is by which they will exercise their discretion. The Scholarship Secretariat essentially has been given the powers of the public purse to exercise discretion in these areas. They have failed to publish it. He asking for a law is proof that he was incompetent for the job. I am not saying we should not do a law, but laws do not do everything. And we don't need laws to prescribe and make sure every rule is written. If we cannot trust that people of a certain caliber will occupy certain offices, then we are doomed. But if we make the mistake of putting people there and they come and tell us that because I don't have a law which will tell me to do this and that, I cannot do my work, that person has disqualified themselves from that office. So in short, the scholarship secretariat must publish the rules, but if the rules have not been published, people who are given these discretions are expected to exercise it as patriots with a public interest and definitely not exercise it the way they have exercised it. And when they are called to be transparent and to give information, they must not frustrate people like the journalists, like civil society organizations, like citizens who want information by doing the kinds of things that they did at the scholarship secretariat. If they do that, they have disqualified themselves, which is what I'm saying. Mr. Jima may be a fine person. Maybe if I meet him, I'll like him. But on this score, he has totally failed.
All right. I'll return to you on what should be done beyond you saying he doesn't deserve to be there, he should have been fired long ago, and so on. What should be done, including his call for a legislation. And Clement Apak supports him that there should be some legislation. Now, Dr. Sant, when they mention legislation, and you refer them to at least the Get Fund legislation, through which money is set aside for the sponsorship of local tertiary education, which is very clear that it must go to gifted but needy students. They say that that is the Get Fund money that they will use for that purpose. But they have a mandate beyond that. Even though on their own website, they also underscore that the scholarship is to be given to needy but brilliant who may also be found in civil service or public service.
Well, thank you, Samson, and a very good morning to everybody. I haven't been around for a long time. So
that's right. We are happy to have you.
It's good to be here today. So first of all, let me commend the Fourth Estate for the work that they've done. I think it's triggered a very important conversation about the use of scholarships. But it's also important to commend them on advancing the scope and the development of the law and the regime around the RTI.
That's right.
I think they were cited as one of the organizations that have frequently used the RTI, and I think that's the right way to go.
Not actually one of the organization
that literally
that has used the RTI the most.
The most,
yeah,
exactly. And then also the RTI Commission for continue to persist with the issue of the recalcitrance of a lot of the entities that still want to be in the old order, where public information is opaque. But even in the RTI, there is a clear principle of proactive disclosure.
That's right.
And if you look at Section 3 of the Act, all entities 12 months after the coming into force of the Act are every year required to publish or update a manual which captures all the information that they want to disclose to the public. So that now I should go to the Scholarship Secretariat website. I should see a manual that says this is the information we generate on this entity. And that should even guide me to be able to know what information may be exempt and not. Of course, this has not happened, and it's something that we need to also ask the Ministry of Information what we are doing about it, and also the RTI Commission, because they are supposed to provide guidelines, around this. When I was asked to come and join the panel, I sort of spent some time just looking at scholarship schemes across the world and so on. You go to the Indian government scholarship website. Very detailed, very clear eligibility requirements, including on what is DD or what represents economic, what your income level is. Clearly stated. And sometimes I get shocked when people suggest that, somehow we are not able to determine who is needy or brilliant. When we have been doing social protection programs, even countries are categorized by, their poverty levels. We used to talk about the $1 a day, this and that. The statistical service spends time in categorizing who is poor, who is extreme poor. Governments actually do policies, give monies based on these things. So nobody can tell me that in today's Ghana, they cannot make a distinction as to who is poor and who is needy. If there is a lack of clarity, or if there is a reinterpretation, then of course we'll get to that in terms of what we need to do to make sure that there is no confusion. But to come to the substantive matter, this is not new. And it's a very important question, observation, because when people are saying, why are people generalizing that the scholarship secretariat is being abused? We recall in 2020 when the audit service published a report, a performance audit they did on it was the GET Fund.
The GET Fund had usurped the job of the scholarship secretariat and was given the scholarships directly.
That's right. And this covered the period 2012 to 2018, but this was published in 2020. And there, 86 beneficiaries were cited, and I think even a report to Parliament was made that some of these people did not, because the GET Fund is very clear about who is needy and who is brilliant, and that these scholarships are supposed to go for Ghanaian programs. It doesn't, and then there is this discretion that is given in 2E or so.
Section 2D emphasizes that it has to be given local scholarship.
Yes.
So you pay for the person to attend school in Ghana.
That's right.
Then the E opened a certain window.
That is where I want to really spend some time, because I think for all of those listening to us, it's really important to understand that when people, there's this culture and this belief that when you are given discretionary power, you can do pretty much what you want. And just listening to Mr. Kingsley Ajimai, in his responses to the Fourth Estate, he keeps coming up with reasons why he thinks somebody will, maybe qualify. They may be twins. They may be this.
The double beneficiaries.
The double beneficiaries and so on.
He said it could be twins.
And that for me betrays a certain level of ignorance about the fetters that, even currently, where we think it's not even enough, but the fetters that govern the use of discretion. And that if you are in public service and you are not aware of this, for me, it is problematic. And maybe that's where we start. But just to remind everybody, there is a clear conflict of interest injunction for all public officers under Chapter 24 of the Constitution in Article 284. So if you discharge your public duties to favor someone because they belong to your party, or you know the person, or you like their face, or whatever, in simple terms, you are denying a fair opportunity to all the Ghanaians who are eligible, whose taxpayers' money you are using to give these scholarships out. So this idea that, if I have discretion power, I can do anything. They say you cannot put your private benefit. And if me and you are in a party, and for the good of the party, or to reward party members, we get to public service, and we are handing out this as gifts. Yeah, for our private benefit, it would be great. But the Constitution is very clear that you can't use state resources for that purpose. Similarly, if you have discretionary power under Article 296, you are obliged to be fair and candid. You cannot be arbitrary. You cannot be capricious. You cannot be biased, either based on resentment, prejudice, personal dislike, and you must act in accordance with due process of law. And these provisions are very important restraints to discretion power. And if it was not for the Supreme Court decision in Ranford France, an Attorney General, Article 296C is probably even our best protection, because it said that if you were not a judicial officer, you were obliged to publish by a constitutional instrument or statutory instrument how you were going to govern a discretionary power.
Guidelines.
Yeah, in terms of your guidance. And if you really think about it, and here I always, every time I meet Dr. Ayili, I said, he is the one that has caused this problem, because he was the one that went to use the word meltdown. That if we apply this provision, it will be a meltdown. But I thought, for me, the Supreme Court got it wrong. And I thought that the idea that the Supreme Court can suspend a mandatory requirement of the Constitution, it's just a no-no. And it's something that we have to go for a review. But if you
the Supreme Court in the matter involving, I think, Brighter Kwete on the Chief Justice, oh, the title can't escape my memory this way, was very categorical.
Brighter Kwete and AG?
No, that was not the title. It was very categorical through Sophia Kufu that this injunction, that you must publish guidelines for how you exercise a discretion, is mandatory.
Yes.
And actually required that the CJ will even publish some regarding how to impeach
very much so.
the head of a constitutional, independent constitutional body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think really for me it's due for a review, because it's really damaging. I mean, and it's interesting that in Professor Datiba's judgment, he referred to the 1969 Constitution, which used the same language, and provided the justification they had made, that they had considered all the other measures and said no. But how are we going to track? How many times do people even know the number of statutory instruments that are laid before Parliament? You are not. You'll be there one day. You are transacting the business with the state and realize there's a new law that you didn't have any opportunity to participate in, whatever. But after looking at that, to say that, oh well, if you do this, there's a nuclear meltdown.
But for the Scholarship Secretariat, they have actually shown that this is how they would do it. And Baumia launched that and said there will be transparency. I think the problem has to do with the implementation, which is our bane in this country, isn't it?
I think it's even beyond that. And just before I even land on that point, because I also feel that even from a common law position, if you think about the doctrine of legitimate expectation, which really it has changed the way we view administrative law, that you have to be heard, you have to laws have to be predictable, you have to be fair. This kind of decision completely sort of even undermine that doctrine. But when I listen to Dr. Baumia, when I read the Scholarship Secretariat, it's very clear that the way we see the solution is in terms of access to the applications, right? It's in terms of the access to the applications, and not when even the accountability structure and how we assess fairness, how we are making judgments about what is the objective of a scholarship scheme in our context. If you read what's on the website, the general broad framework is tied to the national development plans, it's tied to particular government policy objectives, but it doesn't break it down and say, oh, we are lacking 10 engineers in nuclear science or whatever, and therefore, in this year, we want to do those things.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Asante. Thank you, Dr. Asante. And Roxanne, we'll ask you to please hold on for us. We have to go quickly to the Ministry of Finance for an important development there with the IMF as they conclude their mission review. You know what we are under presently. Let's go there right away. Welcome back. This show is paid for by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 years plus. My Way Insurance. Dial *165#. on MTN to join My Way today. Syntax tanks is strong, it's tough. Flamingo paint, simply superior. DBS Industries Limited, roofing, Papa Fie. And you just heard the meeting with the IMF and the finance minister, and of course, the Bank of Ghana boss, where they have concluded their review of Ghana's program that has been going on for a while now. Now, we will continue our discussion, and we have heard from Kofi Bentil. We have heard from Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante and Seth Bokwe. We will now hear from Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dafiamapo, MP South Dai, and member Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Public Accounts, Standing Orders Committees of Parliament. Like Yao Daniel Domelovo, you were also not shocked by the revelations that the Fourth Estate brought to us on this scholarship matter, or as far as you're concerned, there's nothing amiss?
Good morning, and Doc, good morning. It's been a while.
Yes,
And the show will be on until 12:30.
Okay. Good morning to my constituents in South Nine. Yes.
We never miss that.
Yes. I received some information sometime last year regarding the activities of the registrar or the executive secretary of the scholarship secretariat. And so we'll be tracking that to the extent that questions that I filed directed at the Minister of State at the Office of the President to come to Parliament to answer took so long. Eventually, when he got advertised, he failed to prepare the information for the minister to come to present to us.
And was advertised on Wednesday, the 13th of March, 2024.
Yes.
And I'm looking at paragraphs 1291 and 1292.
Yes.
Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dafiamapo Sadai to ask the Minister of State at the Office of the President the details of all overpayments of stipend made to beneficiaries of government scholarships, both local and abroad, by the Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat since he assumed office, with comprehensive account details on how the overpayments were made and recovered and through which accounts. Then there's another one standing in your name that you were to ask the Minister of State at the Office of the President the details of all official travels by the Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat and his entourage since he assumed office, and the purpose as well as the total cost of each trip to the states.
Then that's a third one, standing in the name of the Honorable Angela Lote.
That one, Angela, Mrs. Angela Oforuwa Alote, Afajato South. She was to ask the Minister of State at the Office of the President the full details of scholarships granted to Ghanaians for both local and international courses by the Scholarship Secretariat from 2017 to date, and the quantum of stipend paid and received by the beneficiaries of the scholarships.
Yes.
Of course, there's another question by Dr. Clement Apak, also on scholarships. So there has been some interest on the part of the NDC MPs in Parliament.
Yes, because we had information.
Yes.
Okay. Now, these questions erupted as a result of the information, the sordid informations we had. One, including the fact that the Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat travels, for instance, every week. He undertakes international travels every week.
Well, is it the GMPC boss who has been sacked, who has resigned?
Well, I don't know. And the information is that he travels large. He travels usually first class. That is why we are asking that question in Parliament. Two, that some persons who actually applied and got the applications approved were told that you were, for instance, entitled to, say, your application, your request was up to, say, 40,000 US dollars or euros. But the approval has come for 45,000 US dollars or euros. So you should pay the 5,000 back to a syndicate. People have information on that.
You are confirming what Suleiman Isifu, the scholar in Germany, what he said on Newsfile last week, that he has seen students, he has witnessed it. It's not that he's giving hearsay information. That there's a racket, there's racketeering going on there. So you make the application, they pay money, and then you take the money when it arrives, and then you pay a portion of it to a certain agent of the secretariat.
It's like a concept.
And that one particular student, his bank account was closed because he had withdrawn more than the threshold that you could do over there.
Yes. So all these matters engaged us. The other issue is that I have been on this man for some time. My information is that he had worked in the insurance industry and he misconducted himself professionally. So the National Insurance Commission conducted a disciplinary inquiry and barred him from operating within the insurance industry. That report, I have done an RTI request twice. The NIC has refused to give me a copy of that report.
Oh, appeal to the RTI Commission. They will give it to you.
I have done that. So it was supposed to have helped me to put together a certain dossier on the man. That is why we were happy that even though we went on recess, these questions couldn't be answered. And we're hoping that upon return, we would have pursued the Minister of State at the Office of the President to come and answer. Then, boom, Manasseh releases.
And Dr. Kinsella Juman will be listening to this show, will be watching. Please, you can call in if you have any rebuttal to the suggestions that Roxanne is making about what you may have suffered, some adverse findings against you in your earlier life. You can call us and let us know.
Yes.
Remember, last week they had a representative here, and we committed to having them back. Unfortunately, they told our production that they will be unable to participate going forward. So let's go.
Yes. So the issues at the Scholarship Secretariat is not merely because it's about Dr. Kingsley Ajimai. It's about the fact that there's an inequitable distribution of public funds. You see, we are all happy about what Get Fund is doing. Why? Because there's fairness, there's equity, there's transparency. So when you apply to Get Fund and you are a continuing undergraduate student and you have, say, a second upper CGPA 3.4 and somebody has 3.5, Get Fund will prioritize the 3.5 over you. That is fairness. That is fairness.
But the auditor found that Get Fund, by giving out scholarships, was usurping the role of the Scholarship Secretariat and had recommended that they should cease and desist.
Not at all. When that report came before Parliament, we told the Auditor General that they were wrong because the Get Fund law permits the Get Fund to do what they are doing.
It permits them to give money to the Scholarship Secretariat to disburse for scholarships for local.
We told them that there's no substantive enactment of Parliament governing the activities of the Scholarship Secretariat, and that we would prefer the statutory entity to actually account for its funds by rolling out the scholarship other than giving it to a Scholarship Secretariat that is not bound under any law. If you want to stretch it, then you may have to move them under Public Financial Management Act, which is a long stretch. Because you see, it's an extra-ministerial body set up by Nkrumah and placed under the Office of the President. And it has remained there all these years under the Office of the President. So now, when even the Auditor General audits them, they audit them under government machinery. So it's buried under litany of agencies found under the Office of the President. So the details do not come out.
Now, how do you applaud the Get Funds disbursement?
Yes.
When the special audit,
Yes.
2012, 2017,
Yes.
or 2018,
Yes.
discovered so much rot. They had overspent by 300%. You had ministers like Opoku Prempeh, Adwoa Safo, receiving hefty sums to go for 3 weeks training in Harvard conference.
Okay, can I address that?
Money that could take care of 6 MPhil,
Yes. Can I address that? So because of that, Get Fund has been directed. So they no longer do what they call the foreign heavily. They do a lot of local sponsorship, postgraduate, undergraduate. So the courses that are materially available here in several public tertiary institutions could not be sponsored in a foreign land. So they've taken the advice and stipulations from Parliament, and they are going according to. That is why when we are approving the formula, yes, when we are applying the formula, when we are approving the Get Fund formula, we are able to interrogate the figures and approve of them. So as for Get Fund, they are able to account, and there's transparency. But the scholarship secretariat, none. So it's such a big problem, and that is why the minority is saying that interdict the man and ask the Auditor General to conduct a special inquiry or audit into his activities between when he assumed office and when he will be interdicted. Because you see, if people conduct themselves like this in public office and there's no consequence, they consider themselves to be in a comfort zone and will perpetuate in their act. Look, Dr. Ajimai cannot say that there's no law governing what his conduct in public office. You are a public officer. You are enjoined by the LI 2378-2019, the LI underpinning the Public Financial Management and that. Whilst as a leader of the covered entity in disbursing public funds, you ought to apply certain transparent guidelines. But he won't. And he will call into programs and say that now we need the law. No. The law already exists. We may not have a law covering your entity as a scholarship secretariat, but Parliament approves funds for you. And when those funds are approved, you are enjoined under the Public Financial Management Act to apply the funds in a certain manner and account for it. You don't apply it capriciously to your whims and caprices. So my comments on this matter will be very brief. I share in the earlier submissions, and I support the call that it should be interdicted immediately for a special audit to be conducted into his activities, and then we can take it up from there thereafter.
All right. So I understand is it Haruna Mohammed, the MPP's Deputy General Secretary, joins us on this matter as well. Give us your brief sense of what these issues, of these issues, and then I'll get Kofi and Kojo about 2 minutes each to tell us whether we should leave this to the special prosecutor or we should go beyond special prosecutor, because the minority in Parliament have petitioned the special prosecutor to investigate the matter as brought up by the Fourth Estate. Yes, Haruna.
Thank you very much, Samson. I would say good morning to my colleagues in the studio and your cherished viewership and listeners. Having listened to all the contributions on this particular matter, I want to make some particular categorical statements with regards to what I've listened from you in terms of the 26 members that has been analyzed per what the Fourth Estate has said, that they are relatives of politicians. 17 are multiple persons who have taken scholarships. And with regards to what the Vice President made somewhere in April 2020, he talked about the decentralization. There was a question of it not being decentralized because foreign applications are made in Accra, I want to make it very clear. Foreign applications, if they are not decentralized, does not necessarily mean that they are made in Accra. Once it's online, I can make that from Zibila or from Zabuzugu or Tatale or anywhere, but the accessibility of that will be done in Accra as the evaluation processes goes through. I also disagree with the fact that relatives of politicians. Samson, you agree that every politician is a citizen of Ghana. Their relatives are citizens of Ghana. Their ability to access scholarship does not invalidate the issue of giving them scholarships to go. And also when you look at the criteria set for the scholarship secretariat, it is true, all of us will agree that there is no regulation in terms of law that governs as to who becomes a needy person. If you create an example to say somebody owns a hospital, the person is not needy, how do you define needy? There is no any constitutional rule to say that this person is needy.
The MD of a private hospital, is that what you're saying? A former board member
Yes.
of the National Health Insurance Authority?
Yes.
There's no way to tell if the person is needy or not.
There is no rule. There is no any adequate evaluation.
You want to get serious? You want to get serious? He's operating a hospital in Airport Residential?
Yeah, if he's operating a hospital, at the time he's applying, do you know whether he's needy or he's not needy? There is no any adequate qualification as to who is needy, Samson. We all agree with that fact. This is not a debatable matter. There is no adequate evaluation of a needy person because you might not know the state at which that application for chief secretariat.
Okay.
And that is what.
So you obviously are one of those who support Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh when he says that if the opportunity presents itself again, he would take that scholarship one more time. You support that?
Samson, for example, in 2019, I was in Ken University to do MSc project management. I applied for scholarship secretariat. I did not get. I was a deputy national communications director at that time. If it is so that politicians and high-class persons were people who were getting access to this scholarship, I should have gotten it.
The evidence we have been shown is evidence of the influential, the affluent, and politically connected who have gotten it.
But
the fact that you did not get does not negate that, correct?
But Samson, it is also a fact that whether you are political class or you are a politician or you are a relative of a politician, you are also entitled to scholarship.
Are you concerned? Let's move it this way. Are you concerned that the aide or the one said to be affiliated to the vice president's office or so was giving a scholarship of 57,000 pounds in Ghana cedi terms today? That's almost 1 million Ghana cedis. Didn't attend, and we should not be talking about how to recover that money? You are not concerned?
Samson, I am very much concerned if there is any illegality in that process. And that is why I've always applauded Manasseh in terms of his investigative pieces. If there is any shred of criminality involved in these matters, why not? We have to investigate.
Okay, here are the facts. There's no criminality. The person was awarded the scholarship. There is the evidence submitted to the Fourth Estate shows that he has been paid, that money has been paid. The person has been interviewed. He says, I did not go to the school. What do you think should be done?
The laws has to take its course.
Which of the laws? What do you think should be done?
If the person has not gone for the school and then the person took fees for a school that he has not attended, invariably the person has to refund that. And that is what we have to do. Because I am not here to defend any person's wrongdoing, but I'm here to ensure that I make the points as it is. That will be a very good representative of government. My job is to make government, the name of government image very good to the public. So if you conduct yourself in a manner that is not appropriate, then you must face the full rigors of the law, because you can't take fees that you are entitled to, but you have not used it for that particular purpose.
It's also okay. It's also okay for you. It doesn't offend your sensibilities that the daughter of your former chairman, board chairman of GMPC, who has gone through Parliament, has become deputy speaker, whose wife is a diplomat, you know, the daughter got the scholarship whilst called to the bar in Ghana, got the scholarship to be called to the bar elsewhere in the UK, and then they are back in the country, and you are fighting Galamsey, and they are in their private law firms, and they are defending the Galamsey people. You are not concerned about that? A man who could afford to buy buses for each of your constituencies?
Samson, if you look at the role of the Scholarship Secretariat, one of its major work is that it has to fulfill the SDG Goal 4, and that has to look at what we call quality education. If you look at critically from the website of the Scholarship Secretariat, one of it is provision of quality education, human capital development, productivity and labor relations, and also providing manpower needs for the country. If such a person is eligible to be given an assistance to be able to support human capital development and also to contribute productivity and also providing manpower needs to the country, why not? That is done. And for your profession as a legal person, because you are lawyers, when you are defending somebody, does not impugn criminality because you are only doing your job. So if such a person decides that I'm picking up this case, or the law firm of that particular individual is picking up this case and the person is assigned to go and defend.
It's private practice. It's not practice for the state. You remember that?
It's within the remit of the person is defending what the law firm is doing, and practically the law firm.
You seriously want Ghanaians to take you serious that this is what you represent for this country as the NPP, that this is what you would defend?
No, I am not a lawyer. I am just saying that if your law firm is having a case to defend and you are part of that particular law firm and you are asked to go and defend such a case, Samson, is it going to be a bad attitude to you because you have been given scholarship?
There were people who received multiple, double scholarships. These are not evidence that they generated by themselves. It's the Scholarship Secretariat's own documents they handed to them after they were forced by the RTI Commission. Double scholarships. Somebody has scholarship the same year, doing this, doing that. And there are people who have applied in Ghana. They are looking for just 4,000 to help them. They can't get it. Some are getting 40 or whatever it is. You are okay with this?
No, I'm not okay with double scholarships. It's the same way I am not okay with double salaries that happen in Parliament. So these matters has to be properly investigated and then dealt with. And that is why I say that I always commend Manasseh Azure on some of these particular investigative pieces.
Okay, thank you. Kofi, what should be the way forward? In 2 minutes, solutions. Should we leave it to the OSP or we should go beyond the OSP? Hello, Kofi Bento.
I can hear you.
Yes, please go ahead. Somehow I can't hear you. Please unmute.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead now.
Okay, the OSP has a role to play, but we should not leave this just to the OSP. That appointment is the political appointment. I think something quickly should be done. We should listen to the parliamentarians. These stories have been long in coming, and because sometimes you don't have the facts, you don't want to go at them, but what we are hearing is terrible. And you know, my friend who just spoke, he is making the matter worse. Some things are very straightforward. You kept asking him, you can't tell that the owner of a hospital in East Legon is not indigent. is not somebody who is a needy person, and he's going on about the, common sense of you cannot tell who is the needy person. Please, let's not do those things. I think the first thing should be the gentleman should be interdicted. He clearly is prima facie evidence that he has abused or misused public funds, either on himself on his travels or in terms of some of the things that have happened. And I think a proper parliamentary work has to be done to determine, one, what has happened, and two, Parliament should now say something about what should happen to the Scholarship Secretariat. I agree with some of my colleagues like Professor Prempe who are saying that more than half, if not all, of scholarship funds should be distributed among the public universities. The ones that is left, the half that is left or so, there should be clear parameters on how it will be dispersed. And Article 296, the discussion was, I didn't want to make it into a legal, but I agree with Kojo Asante that we should go back to that. Even if we don't go back to that, you remember I mentioned it in my first submission. The Scholarship Secretariat of whatever will be left of it should set up the rules on who will benefit. And it must be lopsided in favor of needy and brilliant people. Nobody should tell us that cannot be determined in this country. We've determined it in so many different ways for so many other things. It's the same argument we made when Imani was talking about doing this for free SHS, and they went ahead. Now we see the problems that we are getting when all the issues have to do with paying for boarding fees for people who otherwise could have paid for themselves.
Yes, Kojo.
I was a bit concerned when my brother Haruna was speaking, because, nobody can tell me in this country that we cannot establish who is needy. We do LEAP, school feeding. What criteria do we think we use for those things? So we shouldn't even, get into extraneous matters. I know sometimes, when you are a communicator, a political communicator, you need to, but it doesn't help.
You see how quickly he connected it to double salaries?
It's not,
because that has to do with NDC MPs.
It's not helpful.
He'll be quick to condemn it.
We don't have a lot of money. We just got a briefing from the IMF. We are in very serious circumstances. So the small, scarce resources, we have to be prudent and smart about how we use it. This idea that, every Ghanaian qualifies. How are you going to do? Even how much money are you going? If I apply for, I should get scholarship.
Every Ghanaian doesn't qualify. The Scholarship Secretariat's website doesn't say every Ghanaian. You must be a Ghanaian to start with, but you must be needy.
Thank you.
And gifted. And then they say they will also do it at a moderate cost for people in public service.
And then when sometimes you raise the issue about diplomas and things, I know outside of you in the Scholarship Secretariat, you get a lot of scholarships that are tied to particular ministries and so on, from the Japanese and others, that goes directly to people. So we need to clarify all of those processes so that there is some predictability. That's what I was referring to, that legitimate expectation around administrative processes. Okay. I also endorse the idea of a parliamentary inquiry, because this is not the first time I've heard about these allegations of bribery and racketeering that's going on. And I think when the OSP comes in, it is really to pursue the criminal matters. So it's not enough to leave it to the OSP. But one of the other things that we also have to encourage is that when the OSP comes in and then they are asking people to come and help with the investigation, then people disappear. So they are not getting, people who would have gone on social media and make statements now are unwilling to cooperate. And you cannot really move forward with investigations when these things are happening. In other places,
a senior lawyer reached out to me, and many people have reached out to me, send emails, WhatsApp messages. There are some who are talking the positives about how they came from nowhere, they made the application and they got a scholarship. And there are also others who have serious issues with the situation. So there's this gentleman who did the aptitude test and had 97 or so. The Scholarship Secretariat told us the aptitude test only forms, 20% or less.
I didn't see that on the website.
Yes. So this senior lawyer also talks about his frustrations and believes that we may be better off if we did a Chapter 23 approach.
Okay.
So that through Article 278, either the President will set up a committee or a commission, or the Council of State will trigger one, or Parliament itself by resolution will trigger one, and then we provide certain cover for the people who will testify.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they come to testify,
yes,
and they will not be in trouble when they come to testify about.
Because that has been one of the
on.
biggest issues. And that's many people know, but you cannot you cannot. The person is not prepared to come out. I've had experiences of individuals who have scored highest, whatever, very brilliant. Because at least the aptitude test is to deal with the brilliant part.
Yeah.
Right. And they will not even get, and they were told that if you don't have a political connection, you are not going to get it. And they didn't get it. So I think that if we are going to use the scholarship and treat it well, I agree.
Right.
There has to be an investigation into what is happening there.
Okay.
And where is the Minister of State in charge of this?
He says they've invited him. His questions are standing. Their questions are standing. And he's not showing up. But Roxanne, you also support the Get Fund way.
Yes.
But the Get Fund way was found to do a lot of bad.
It's the best of two evils.
And
I don't think it's
just like in this one. There is a name that has been published, one of the MPP communicators. And I hear the person is denying that he ever received any such scholarship. When the Get Fund one was published, I had to represent about three persons. Yeah. Their names were published as having received money 3 years ago and done scholarship.
That's right.
But they never received anything. When we wrote, they only gave us an acknowledgement letter that they are going to investigate. As we said, nothing has happened.
Okay. Now, it's part of the racketeering. So when the Auditor General's report came before Parliament and we invited Get Fund, it was part of the reform.
Yeah,
that is why going forward, there's some sanity in that regard. So all that we're asking for is that interdict the man, let the President interdict the man. In fact, if the Minister of State had come to Parliament to answer to my questions and that of Angela, would have led to some, the matter had generated interest.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for the minister to appear.
Yeah.
And when you ask the question, you have trade supplementary, and other members too have opportunity to ask follow-up. So it would have generated a lot of heat. Yeah. And Speaker, gauging the mood of the House, would have made some consequential directives. So perhaps pursuant to Article 278. But that didn't happen. So now we have Manasseh's material. Our questions are...
This is not Manasseh's.
Okay.
The fourth estate.
The fourth estate.
Okay.
So now we still have our questions outstanding. Yes. But I'm saying that the material, the information from the fourth estate is sufficient enough to let the President's antenna go up and cajole him into making a decision that interdict the man and let Parliament look into the matter, or let Auditor General
go
into a thank you. So it is based on that forensic audit that will be able to interrogate the man.
All right, some of your messages here, and Dr. John Osai Kwapong of the CDD says that part of dealing with this issue has to be the implementation of a set of very clear prescriptive administrative rules that guide the process. I often say that the typical administrative behavior in the absence of clear prescriptive rules is this, quote, so long as the rules don't say I can't, it means I can and I should. Hashtag vexed matters, Newsfile. Thanks very much, Doc. We always cherish your insights here on Newsfile. I've got a good number of your messages I'm going to share with our viewers. And this one says, the Scholarship Secretariat or scheme in Ghana is nothing but fraud. In 2011, I applied for Get Fund Scholarship. I personally dropped my application at their office, then around Association School. They didn't even acknowledge receipt of the application. Meanwhile, I know people who didn't even apply but got the scholarship. We all know it, but don't talk about it. People even pay money to get the scholarship to the tune of over 100,000 cedis. Find out how the registrar even funded his PhD. Did he award scholarship to himself for his PhD? Okay, there are questions that are coming up, but I can't read that for now because he's not here to answer for himself. And that reminds me, I had mentioned that the Fauzi Ramadan had 57,000 pounds. She or he rather had 17,355 pounds. The one who got 57,000 pounds is rather the Julius Ochre, the constituency secretary of the NPP in the Ebuakwa South. Oh, that constituency where he's going to contest. Okay, where he's a candidate, where he has subsidized the price of kenke. Kojo Debris says, what do you expect from a dishonest, corrupt, unprincipled, unscrupulous, hypocritical society where nepotism, favoritism, negative lobbying, etc. are the norms of our governance system? Weep for Ghana. Kwabna Safo says, there must be some background checks on individuals filing for scholarships. And also the online platform must be free to access at all times, and also fair selection. In the Domolevo report, there were about 3,000 scholarships that were awarded. Out of the 3,000 scholarships, there was proof for only about, 12? 12. Out of the 3,000, there were about, 800 that was local scholarship. And there were only 12 who submitted complete proof to meet the criteria. Yes, only 12. Siedu Francis says, if we don't change our mindset about public funds, laws will be made and infractions will be committed. And as you and I know, the mantra in Ghana, Man Friday, the most absurd part of this scholarship secretariat brouhaha is government communicators saying there's no criteria to know who is needy or not. Yeah, they have been saying that the fact that you live in London, the fact that you're already a lawyer in London and you are working as a lawyer doesn't matter. It's not a criteria to tell whether you are needy or not.
Even in London, not
How then are we able to do programs for the poor? No wonder they steal state funds meant for the poor. Perez Awenam says, managing director for a prime private hospital in airport residential area is needy. Oh, yes. Kojo says, the most painful one is Freddie Blaze's daughter getting a scholarship to go qualify to be a lawyer in another country. How does that benefit Ghana? And why do I have to pay for this with my taxes? So why in God's name has the president not said a word about this shameful scholarship scandal? Well, the president may just issue a statement like he did for Cecilia Dapa, that he trusts in her integrity and that she'll be absolved at the end of the investigations. This one from Thomas Nabila, he says, we in Ghana have carved for ourselves the term needy to imply one in real need. Who do we refer to when we say needy but brilliant student? Obviously, we are referring to a brilliant student who, if not supported, may not be able to progress in education. Well, that's how simple it gets, but as you can see, it is not that simple. They say it's relative. A good office set up to help the needy has been made an extension of political party office to help political party members and their family members. Unfortunately, these needy people are the very followers of these wicked politicians, NDC MPP. I don't think we need MPP Deputy General Secretary to talk to this. Let's cut him off. Well, it's a democracy. Let's hear his views. Let's not cut him off. Let's ask him the questions. As simple as that. Okay, so I think I can pause here, even though you have a lot of your messages still coming in.